Hi, and welcome to 10 Kids, 2 Docs, Parenting Insights from Pediatrician Moms. I'm Dr. Sylvia Bank.
And I'm Dr. Vivian Carlin. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are so excited today because we are recording this episode in celebration of our 1 year anniversary from releasing our podcast a little over a year ago.
Yeah. I can't wait. Let's look back on the year.
Let's jump in.
Welcome to the 10 Kids, 2 Docs podcast. Seasoned pediatricians and longtime friends, Sylvia Bank and Vivian Carlin have counseled thousands of parents and are raising 4 and 6 kids, respectively. Join these doctor moms as they incorporate fun and their combined wisdom and experience to share parenting insights for anyone looking for practical and trustworthy guidance. Please note that this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment from your doctor.
Okay, Sylvia, I want to start this out. I have a fun fact that I want to tell you. I don't know if you saw this, but for our listeners, we use a podcasting recording software, and it wraps just like Spotify wraps at the end of the year. And when it wrapped, I don't know if you saw this, it said that we said the word acne more than anybody else on their platform.
I did see that. And honestly, we only recorded 1 episode on acne. I feel like acne is just so underrepresented in the podcast world.
You're right. In fact, just having this discussion right now, we might get that again for 2026. So
well, maybe other people are catching on and it's becoming like, a new hot topic is going to be acne,
right.
Much needed though. A lot of people suffer from acne.
Yes, you're right. More people should be talking about acne, apparently. If we topped the list, then
I did see it. And I also love the little bits of just us laughing. Like they had like a little bits of our laugh track where you're laughing, I'm laughing. I don't even know what we're laughing at, but it's like clips of us laughing. And it just kind of, I think for me, when I saw it, it summarized like, gosh, we had, at least I had a really fun time this last year. Just talking, laughing, reminiscing. It really brought a smile to my face when I saw that recap.
I totally agree.
So I want to hear your overall thoughts. I know we kind of highlighted it a little bit if anyone listened to our bonus episodes with our husbands, but I want to hear what your favorite episode has been. Maybe like your favorite episode and then what you felt like was the most challenging episode.
Ooh, okay. I find that the episode that I find myself coming back to in my own mind the most is the one on social media, to be honest. And honestly, I feel like this whole project and having done those episodes on social media has resulted in me becoming more and more cynical and jaded about social media.
Like now that we're like high alert and aware,
Yeah.
like I see things in the news that like recap and remind me of our social media episode as well.
Yeah. I have like a personal example that happened recently with social media, and it's sad. There was a young adult who went missing over Christmas, and then it was later found that she had committed suicide.
Oh, that's terrible.
Made the national news because there was a multi-day search, and this woman is in our community. Like she lives not too far from us, and while she went to a different high school, she was a friend of multiple friends, similar in age to my young adult children. So we had been really following closely that story and had multiple people that we knew that went to the funeral. Like we knew this story well. And about a week or 2 after the case was closed, I started getting things on my social media about that case that were completely false. Like, implying like, oh, wait, this is a homicide. Like the police, this sensational reporting on it. And I realized it just looked like any other thing on my feed. And I showed it to my kids who are more closely involved with the story. And they were pointing out things like they had a photo of a friend standing against like a police tape for the height. And the height was like 6'7". And my daughter immediately looked at it and was like, wow, like that is just so, that's just like fact that is so incredibly wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like this person is 5'8". Like the fact that even that detail is so wrong in the story. And I'm just getting fed it as just whatever consumer of social media. So anyway, it was just really upsetting to me because there's so much of our news that we get where you're not sure what to believe anymore. And this was a case that we knew so intimately well. We
Yeah.
knew personally well enough to see that all of this sensationalized thing coming up on the social media was completely false. And again, just brings to my awareness, I'm just becoming more cynical and jaded about
Well,
social media.
honestly, I feel like it's always been an issue. And when we started the podcast a year ago, I don't know if we felt ready or prepared as podcasters to tackle that topic. And I'm really glad that we were able to kind of delve into it in our second season, almost as an opener in the beginning, to feel like now we're podcasters, we get our rhythm, we really want to address this properly, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think we've had some interesting insight putting out our own material on social media about things that get flagged or blocked. So we had a guest speaker who put on his social media some pictures of diphtheria, and those got taken down as sensitive content. I think you had an interesting experience with TikTok.
So yeah, like we had made a series of reels on the vaccine series that we just recently released, and that I made a reel about your story about Edward Jenner observing that the milkmaids that had had cowpox were more resistant to smallpox. And that reel somehow got flagged as being inappropriate for TikTok.
Yeah, it's so odd because that was literally just statement of historical fact. Like that's not something that's refutable or even an opinion, right? It was just a clip stating that historical fact. So really eye-opening as to
see what is getting flagged and what isn't, right?
and how our feeds are being manipulated based on user engagement and whatnot. So I don't know. I find that's the episode I most frequently dwell on or that comes to mind. Honestly, this seems so random, but I think the episodes I'm most proud of are the ones on drowning prevention. I want to re-release those this year. I just feel like we covered that so well.
Yes.
And yet it's not like a high interest, exciting topic, but I want everybody to know.
We feel so strongly about as pediatrician moms. Everyone should know this before you delve into the world of swimming with your children or deciding to get a home pool. All of that can be super fun, but messages that we really want to get out there.
Yeah.
My proudest episode was actually one of our first ones, which is the inspiring internal drive in the teenager. I feel like the storytelling that I did in that episode was something that I've had pent up in myself. This was like a milestone in my parenting and a switch and a realization that I really want to share with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like, in a way, for me, one of the motivating episodes to even do the podcast was that transition for me and my husband as change in our parenting philosophy and the evolution of that through storytelling. And I feel completely validated by that because that is still our number one episode.
Oh,
The
is
one
it?
Yes.
I don't even know that.
That has been consumed the most. So I run the numbers. How many listens have we had? And some of this is skewed. Some people like listen for 5 seconds and they get off. So it may be related to how much the episode is getting put on someone's feed. But this episode, Inspiring Internal Drive in the Teenager, is our number one listened to episode. And it just kind of validates for me, as we look back on our first year of podcasting, my desire to want to get that message out there and validating that people want to hear that message, right? So that is probably my proudest episode.
Well, and that's back when our audio has come a fair way. It's so bad.
So terrible. But still, I mean, I think that topic for almost anyone who is raising a teenager resonates with them, right? A universal parent topic, right?
Yeah, interesting. In the second half, let's start by talking about what was the most challenging or least favorite episode of the year. Honestly, I feel like and you're great, Sylvia, at suggesting to me that you want to do these episodes, any episodes that talk about ADHD or learning disabilities. I spend so much mental time trying to figure out how to reflect on that in the time constraints that we have in a way that is meaningful and paints the reality while also offering hope and instruction and is respectful. I mean, I just find those so cumbersome. And I keep reminding myself, this is why people do entire podcasts just on these topics.
Right. And I feel like these are the topics that I know you have particular expertise in. And that knowledge is something that really needs, I see it in my practice. Like I see it with patients looking for this information. And I bring you back to these topics to draw this difficulty out of you because I see a need for that, at least in my practice and my patient population. So I appreciate that you're willing to go through that thought process. It's not easy to think about parenting, medicine, presentation, all in one with such a difficult topic. And I appreciate the efforts that you put forth to make them very, very good episodes.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It is an important message. It is stressful. It's something a large percentage of parents are facing.
Yes.
So I do always love when we choose episodes where I know that it's primarily your thing. Like food allergy, that's all you. I'm like, oh, great. Let's go record. I can't wait to get Sylvia talking about this.
And those are hard for me to do too. Like when I'm trying to do a process justice in a 20-minute podcast episode. But I know that these are high yield topics that I see a need for in my practice. And I'm glad that we're covering them, even though that they're difficult for us, right?
What about, do you have a least favorite episode? A worst episode?
I mean, I'll have to say, and if anyone knows me personally, I am an extremely non-confrontational person, almost to a fault. This is something I've sensed in myself even as a child. I'm very non-confrontational. I like to avoid confrontation. And I think that doing the vaccine series was challenging for me because it put us in, I mean, rightfully so. We are pediatricians and doctors, but in that whole realm of current controversy that, of course, I talk to with patients behind closed doors, but in a public forum like our podcast, it was hard for me to get there and be quote unquote confrontational in my wimpy opinion. But that series on vaccines was difficult for me.
Okay, I fully agree with you. I have multiple friends that have chosen not to vaccinate their children, right? Like I'm now publicly going to state my disagreement with them, right? And I'm also very non-confrontational. This is probably the weakness between the two of us together is that a lot of podcasts benefit from somebody who's really in your face controversy. I will say, as soon as I heard that the HHS had changed the recommendations for vaccines, I pulled up the article with bated breath because so much on my mind was measles, diphtheria, Hib, Prevnar, pertussis. These are the 5 that we had time to discuss in that series. And I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw that all of those stayed on. I was so nervous if any one of those dropped because it was so fresh in my mind about how dangerous those diseases were. Now we got to go back with Dr. Krugman. We've got to talk Hep B, Hep A, rotavirus, meningococcus.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I wanted meningococcus to make it into the first series and we didn't have time. Like I hate meningococcus. So I think now we've just tipped the iceberg. We somehow came out in agreement with the recommendations with all the ones that we released with first priority, but now we need to go hit the more controversial ones.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully Dr. Krugman would be willing to come back on our show and describe these other illnesses. And I do believe that Dr. Krugman's grandfather actually helped develop the Hep B vaccine. It is something in his family history very close to him. So I would love to hear his thoughts on this and the ones that have been quote unquote taken off of the list.
I hope that we were able to tackle it in a way that is a little bit more personal, a little bit more relating as parents, but also a little bit more interesting on the history and the reasons why and all of that to really empower parents to make decisions for their children.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe, and this is the stance that we took on the series, that we don't talk enough about the diseases. Somehow the topic is just on the needles. And as pediatricians and moms, actually, I don't think of it as needles. I think of it as diseases. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from our social media posts, kind of redirecting the focus on the actual diseases. So I'm proud of that.
And hopefully it got us to that next level.
Why don't we look forward? What is coming up that we're really super excited about?
Okay. Well, I'm excited that we have an interview coming up again with Dr. Kathy Parrish to discuss more in-depth single parenting.
Yeah.
That's obviously been a big one that we need to address that we have not gotten time to yet, and yet affects a large percentage of parents. So we want to reach out to them.
I mean, let me just tell a quick story. I met one of our biggest fans. She has listened to all of our episodes. She has really kind of used our podcast as a parenting tool for her. And later I found out that she was actually widowed when her children were young. And she uses our podcast as that sounding board, being a single parent. Now her children are in their like preteen teens. She doesn't have anyone, Kathy Parrish talked about this, to bounce those ideas off of. And sometimes just listening to our podcast helps support her in her single decision making for her children. So that was very touching to hear. And I think of her as we're approaching the single parenting episodes with Dr. Parrish. As we delve into adverse childhood experiences, of which the parental loss was the first of that series, we are about to release a 2-part series on divorce, which is very common as things don't work out. Divorce from both child perspective, what it is like for a child when their parents are going through that, and then high yield tips and advice for parents that are going through divorce. So I'm really excited about that 2-part series with a very special guest that you will meet in our next upcoming set.
Yeah. Another one that I'm excited about is our series coming up on executive functioning.
Yeah.
That's like a big buzzword. And we get to talk about that as it relates to all children. But then, Sylvia, you once again have me trying to tackle ADHD, which is always my most difficult thing to do. But I'm excited about how that came together. I mean, a lot of times, you and I can both attest to this. This is like a evolving process for us, right? Sometimes we sit down to record, and as we're going, I am like, with your help, processing my own parenting out loud.
Yes, like let's reflect. It's like we're supporting each other, and then seeing how we can turn our experiences in parenting for advice and support for other parents out there, right?
Right.
Now, that episode actually came from my one child that listens to the podcast. Like, you have multiple children that consume our podcast. I have one. And that child actually wanted us to do more storytelling. As he knows pretty much all of our family stories and a lot of your family stories, in his opinion, our best episodes have been foundationally based on a good story. And he offered himself up as, why don't you tell the story about me? And with that type of permission, I'm like, okay, let's do this episode on executive functioning. So that's kind of the origin of that, because I mean, there is storytelling to be had, right?
What that makes me think of, my adult children all want to also be subjects of the storytelling.
Oh, really?
Yes. But, unfortunately, I think you can attest to this in your mind as I can. Some of them just provide much more fodder for storytelling than others.
It is true. It is so true. But at the same time, I've talked about each and every one of my children in a different way, shape, or form in episodes. And I think you have too, right?
I think I have hit everybody.
Yes.
But some with more frequency than others.
That's true. That is so true.
And let it be known, that doesn't necessarily mean my children with ADHD. Like, I can tell you, in my mind, I know which of my neurotypical children will come up more frequently as well.
So I'm super excited to continue on into our second year of programming. And as always, if you have feedback, suggestions, topics that you would like us to hit, please email us at feedback@10kids2docs.com.
Yeah, we're available and willing to tackle anything, really. I mean, we do it in our practice every day as it comes up ad nauseum, and we'll do it here too. So there's no question off limits, nothing off the table. And again, thank you always to our listeners. We are so glad that you continue to join us on this as we're having fun doing it. I hope you're having fun listening and learning some things along the way, just as we're learning as we're going. Our growth has fully exceeded our expectations, and we could not be more complimented by your support for us. I will say, as we look ahead, 10 Kids, 2 Docs is about to hit the road. We have 3 speaking engagements coming up. And I will say, my kids, some of my friends texted me when their Spotify Wrapped that we were their most listened to podcast.
Stop. That's so great.
And then I said to my husband, where was my podcast on your list? We did make his Wrapped.
Excellent.
We were not at the top, but we did make the top 10.
Okay.
So,
And I think your husband is a podcast consumer, right? So he listens to a lot. The fact that we were on the list, I think.
yeah. I'm it's good. I'm good with it. So
Right.
anyway, all right, cool. Well, I'm excited about what's ahead.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. Continue to tune in and see what we have in store. Vivian and I are so excited about our content, and we will continue to make content throughout the next year and years to come.
Sounds good. This is 10 Kids, 2 Docs. I'm Dr. Vivian Carlin.
And I'm Dr. Sylvia Bank. See you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to 10 Kids, 2 Docs, hosted and created by Sylvia Bank and Vivian Carlin. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and recommend our podcast to other listeners. Visit our website at 10kids2docs.com, where you can find links to social media and leave comments or suggestions. Back next week with more topics in parenting.